As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Obscurity Now, the show that takes a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media, and then we decide if it should be remembered for all of human history or tossed into the black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve, and I'm one of the hosts, and with me, he may be a Damonite in disguise. It's
Yahel. How are you doing, Steve? Are you ready to explore the senses-shattering first issue of WildC.A.T.s, as they boldly proclaim on the cover that it's the first senses-shattering issue?
Hey, well, I'm just thankful they warned me, because the last time, no one told me that my senses were going to be shattered, and they were, and it just took weeks to get them back to normal.
Yeah, no, I get it, man. That Rob Liefeld.
What did it say on the cover of Youngblood? I think it just said first sensational issue is what it said, actually.
Oh no, it said fuck anatomy.
Yes, this is the summer of Image. I don't even think we mentioned it on the last Spawn episode. Basically just means we're going to be covering Image comics and media. Hopefully you enjoyed our Spawn and Youngblood review, and now
and we're covering like early Image.
Oh yes, the founding stuff, the only stuff that matters, the stuff that wasn't good but everyone remembers. Not really wasn't good, but
the stuff with the pouches and chrome metal.
Oh, you gotta have that chrome, and you gotta have those pouches. So WildC.A.T.s #1, was this one that you picked up back in the day?
Yep, I was very excited about this. I was a huge fan of Jim Lee's run on X-Men. Mm-hmm. I don't know anybody who wasn't.
Right.
I think a lot of X-Men's rise to popularity can be credited to his art. Mm-hmm. And he spawned a myriad of copycats, which is fine by me. I mean, hey, you can definitely pick worse artists to copycat. But yeah, what about you? Did you pick up Jim Lee's WildC.A.T.s?
Oh, absolutely, I did. I think it might have been one of the first Image #1s I was able to get my hands on, because I wasn't able to get a Youngblood #1. I had to start with like #3, but for some reason there were plenty of WildC.A.T.s, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. And of course, before that, I also read the regular, X-Men #1, like, the #1 selling comic of all time, which it still is, over 8 million copies sold. So yeah, I was already, he might be, aside from Rob Liefeld, he might be one of like the first artists that I was like, oh, that's a name that I know, and would like actually, seek out whatever it is that he worked on. I know he also worked on Alpha Flight for a minute there. You can't leave out Alpha Flight. And
one thing I noticed too when looking at the credits, and I did remember this as a kid, is that Scott Williams is the inker, and Scott Williams was his inker on X-Men. And Joe Rosa's the colorist. I'm pretty sure he was also the colorist on X-Men. And X-Men at the time, I remember, had like some of the better coloring in out of the Marvel books. There was a lot of gradients, and you didn't see a lot of that back then. He basically, Jim Lee convinced, a lot of people don't talk about like some of the other like non-pencilers that came over with the Image guys. So yeah, he basically brought over like most of the X-Men team.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you? In case you don't know, Jim Lee is one of the founding fathers of, and by you, I mean the listener/viewer. Jim Lee is one of the founding fathers of Image Comics, and I'm sure he talked to the rest of the X-Men team, and he was like, boys, because that's how he talks, boys, I'm going over here to form Image. You're either coming with me or you're going to stay here and flounder at Marvel like that no good Stan Lee. God rest his soul. God rest his soul.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I'm sure they were more than happy to ride his coattails all the way to Image.
But still very risky.
Sure.
And especially if you're not to diminish the job of an inker or a colorist,
No.
they're super important, right?
Mhm.
But they're obviously going to not be as well known. If you're a Jim Lee, a Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, if you go and form Image and it goes bust, you're going to be able to get a job at DC or Marvel later on.
Right.
It's not going to be a problem for you. But if you're an inker or a colorist, maybe you'll get another job somewhere else. Maybe you won't. So
You'll get,
the balls on these guys.
They'll bust you down to Dark Horse or Pacific Comics or First Comics.
Yeah. You'll be coloring in Jughead's hat for the rest of your life.
Well said. All right, let's. You ready to dive head or claws first into Wildcats #1?
Meow. Yes.
Welcome to your feature presentation.
All right, Wildcats #1. It premiered August in 1992. This first volume of Wildcats ran 50 issues, and there are 5 volumes total of Wildcats. And I have read the first 3. How about yourself? How deep did you go into Wildcats?
I like the other Image comic books. I know I at least collected through the first year, maybe regular, every issue, maybe a little bit after that. But I think this is one of the first Image books I dropped off of, to be honest.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But part of it was again, a lot of the Image books, and I know we've mentioned this numerous times, they didn't come out monthly.
Right.
They did, they came out very sporadically. They were always late. So you kind of lost the
thread.
The appeal. It loses a little bit of the appeal and stuff when you can't read it regularly. And then I'm like, wait, what happened in the last issue?
Can't remember.
It's been 3 months, and yeah. So it was more that was my big problem with Image Comics. Not the lack of coherent stories.
Not the failed attempts at anatomy by erstwhile Rob Liefeld. It's the shipping, their shipping service.
Yeah. Although I will say, man, there's a couple questionable bits of anatomy in this issue too.
Ooh, I look forward to seeing them, which we will in just a moment.
It's a '90s thing, though. It's definitely a '90s thing, which we'll get to.
I mean, I always felt that. I mean, at least compared to our good pal Rob, Jim Lee is. I mean, there's no question in his line work and drawings and rendering of anatomy for the most part, and it's always consistent. You're not looking how did you say that woman looked?
Oh, from Youngblood?
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, there's a character, Shaft's girlfriend. In one panel, she looks like she has fetal alcohol syndrome.
And then in another panel, she doesn't. And then there's it's supposed to be a different character, but then it looks just like her. Yeah, there's none of that in this.
Yeah, Bedrock's mom looks just like Shaft's girlfriend.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Youngblood, yeah.
But in case, I assume you didn't read any of the other volumes of Wildcats. As you're going to see here, the writing is, it's not, the most advanced thing ever. But if you wanted to read a Wildcats that is taken into some pretty crazy directions, Volume 2 and especially Volume 3 by Joe Casey is pretty awesome, if I do say so myself. In case anyone else is in, if you're just thirsty for more Wildcats content provided by Yahel and I, we did an episode a while back, and it's Battle of the 90s Superhero Team cartoons. And among them is Wildcats. It's Wildcats versus X-Men versus Ultra Force. So make sure you check that out. I forgot. I think I asked you back then to pick a favorite Wildcat, and you said it was Maul. Is that correct?
Oh, did you ask me to? I don't know. I doubt I said Maul.
Well, who's your favorite now after reading #1 again at the
Grifter?
Ah, there we go. That's yeah. All right. Welcome to the Grifter bandwagon. Okay, so all right, let's think that's enough for. Oh yeah, the name of the issue or the story is actually called Resurrection Day, and I have a pseudo synopsis here. Even though we're about to go, read through a digital copy together, it's Jacob Marlowe is the CEO of Halo Incorporated, a multi-billion-dollar company. Not only that, but he is the leader of a team of alien-human hybrid agents known as the WildC.A.T.s. The WildC.A.T.s are Marlowe, Void, Spartan, Maul, and Warblade. And Void informs Marlowe that they must stop the Daemonite Cabal from initiating Project Reunification. To this end, they must find a gifted one with the power of sight before the Cabal does. And we already spoke about Jim Lee, who is the co-creator, writer, and artist. We talked about his, he actually co-created, just some highlights. We already talked about his work on X-Men. He co-created Gambit with Chris Claremont, and also basically put the X-Men through a makeover, like new uniforms for Cyclops, Psylocke, Storm, and so forth. And he also co-created Omega Red with John Byrne, which they never use Omega Red in anything anymore. I don't know if that's because Jim Lee is now pretty much owned by DC Comics, but you never see him in anything.
And the other co-creator and writer of this, Brandon Choi, I don't know if you looked up anything about him.
I was about to get to him, sure, but go right ahead.
Well, fine. Okay. Well, obviously he created Gen 13, which I think that's kind of like where I really recognize the name from. But when I was reading about him, I'm sure you probably saw this too, that like he and Jim Lee were like friends since 6th grade,
Childhood
and like
chums.
they've been creating comics since 6th grade. So who knows? Maybe they were even friends before that. But that's like wild to me. No pun intended, but that like how cool is that? That like that was their obviously like what they wanted to do as kids, and all through adulthood they remained friends and made these comics, and they made it happen. So I think that's pretty cool.
But correct me if I'm wrong though. From at least the trail of history that I read about the two, it kind of seems like Jim Lee sort of rose to prominence, created Image Comics, and then sort of brought Brandon Choi along for the ride. And because I could only find credits for him working on Image stuff and then nothing else. Like he never worked at Marvel or DC or anything else. Only. So
he actually did 12 issues of Fantastic Four.
Oh, okay. All right. That was during the Heroes Reborn, when they brought all the Image guys back to Marvel? Is that when that happened?
I don't think so. It was in 1996.
I don't know if that's when that happened or not, but I just couldn't find what happened to Brandon Choi after Jim Lee sold out to DC. Spoiler alert, that's what he did.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything past Brandon Choi and Jim Lee did do Heroes Reborn in 2000.
There you go.
So yeah, they did do Fantastic Four. And actually I think I might have gotten the dates wrong. It was not 96. Yeah, it was all 2000s. Looks like. But yeah. So, but outside of that, you're right. I don't really see anything else that he's done. He did study law, so maybe he's just, doing that.
Let's make a pact, Yahel. If either of us creates a successful company, the other one has to drag the other one along. Deal?
Sounds great. Sounds great.
All
right, but let's get into Wildcats. I think we've been taking a little while to get to it. And first thing I noticed with the art is there's actual backgrounds and settings and places. A refreshing change from Youngblood.
Absolutely. Okay, here we are in page 1. And basically it says we're in the past, an Antarctic U.S. research station back in the good old 1980s. And basically Void sort of just appears out of nowhere. She goes, "Give me the orb. You do not comprehend its power. Give it to me before it's too late." And then she just disappears. And I remember reading this as like a 12 or 13-year-old and really not understanding what is going on. Even though I read it several times. But anyway, moving on. So now we're in the future, which is 1992. And basically We've got some government spooks talking about stuff. And then once again, Void materializes, and she goes, "No, not while we're so close," and then she disappears again. Let me check I can't remember if there was something important there. Nope, there wasn't. So moving on. All right, now we have a huge like full page splash of Jacob Marlowe sleeping in filth. There's a fly crawling on his face, and we are in the present, which the present is 1990. I remember I was sleeping in filth back then.
Yeah, we all were. It was the 90s, baby.
Exactly. It was the hip thing to do. Basically, there's some caption boxes about Jacob Marlowe and his hard life, just sort of getting pushed around by normies, I guess. And then out of nowhere, some thugs decide they want to kick around a hobo for no real reason, and some powers come out of his fingers, and that sort of pushes back one of the thugs, and he's like, whoa, what's happening? And then the other thug cracks him with a metal bar. So I wonder if he just brought his metal bar from home, or if he just found it in the alley. So they basically start beating down Jacob Marlowe a bit more, and then pretty good reveal here. There's a glowing hand here from Void, like throws one of the thugs across the panel, and I mean, just simple stuff like this. He just makes it look so good.
Yeah. So here I will say is one of the anatomy issues that I was going to bring up, and this is like. It's just how women were drawn in the 90s. Like when you see Void here, when she says I am called Void or whatever, look at the way her back is like arched, like her back is like going like back like at this weird angle, but she's like still also standing up straight somehow, and then her head is like kind of like looking forward.
Yeah, that's
like it just makes no sense.
Jim Lee woman body right there.
Yeah, but that was everybody in the 90s with the woman's body, but like her spine, if you think about it, it's like zigzagged. The way, like, it's like going boop, boop, boop.
Yeah,
like, it makes no sense.
She's a living computer, dude. That's just how she was made. I don't know.
Yeah. But like I said, I mean, it's more of a style of the times. I suspect that,
times, yep.
I suspect that, like, I haven't seen any of Jim Lee's, like, recent stuff, but I bet he's not drawing women like this today.
Yeah, it's, I would say it's slightly more toned down. But not so much more. At least the backs make sense, I would say.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The anatomy. I'm sure they still have big boobs and butts or whatever. But
you got to. Well, not according to Marvel and DC anymore, but that's another podcast. So yeah, she basically takes care of the thugs. And then she says she has to prepare Jacob for the coming war, and for him to just trust her, and he'll have to suffer no more. And of course, he just does. He doesn't even have to think about it. Do you think, he was just had nothing to lose, so he was like, sure, I'll just trust the weird silver lady? Or do you think they were just moving it along? What do you think?
I mean, I think both,
All right, I'll live with that answer.
Yeah, sorry, I have nothing further to elaborate on.
No problem. So
I did notice that it was I know like it was released in August. Then the next page it says like today, August 8th, 1992. Which, by the way, how is today not the present? But whatever. Whatever. I digress. But WildC.A.T.s was released in August of 1992, and I wonder if it was released on August 8th, like maybe that's when it was like actually like on sale. So if so, that's pretty cool that they did it that way. But
right. So after we turn the page, we are now we went from the present to today. As Yahel said, August 8th, 1992. And this is actually a pretty decent transition. If this was like in a movie, it would be pretty cool, because you see Jacob Marlowe again, and automatically you're like, oh man, the dude's homeless again. What's going on? And then he rumbles and grumbles his way through the streets of New York. And for some reason, he gets hit by a taxi. No problem for old Jacob Marlowe. he just saunters his way into like a big fancy building. The doorman knows him. Like everyone's saying hi to him. He's like, "Yeah, get bent. I'm hungover over here." Like this is the part that was like made for Danny DeVito, like back in the '90s.
Right.
Unfortunately, we never got a Wildcats feature. But anyway, so the final panel is like him getting a makeover by, I guess, a woman who you could assume is his like assistant. And then the next page is him in a nice suit. And they want his like a crony tells him, or no, he says, "Hey, I feel like $1 million now." And one of his like Waylon Smithers is like, "Actually, $2.5 billion at the opening of the market today, sir." And he's like, "Ha! Remind me to give you two a raise." And the lady is like, "You already did that last week, Mr. Marlowe." So we get it. Mr. Marlowe is like on an Uncle Scrooge level of like, rich here.
But he still sleeps like in the alley for some reason.
Well, we can assume that he partied too hard and passed out in the alleyway, and none of his cronies thought to go looking for him. I mean,
yeah, I always assumed that like it's just like what he did like every night, like that's how he likes to sleep or something for some reason.
So used to it. See,
yeah,
that would be interesting. I don't feel like they gave it that same level of thought. But
yeah, I suspect that you're right, that he just had like a late night.
Yeah. So let's see. He gets the makeover, and here he sees Void, and he says he's celebrating. It's been 2 years since she found him in the alley. She tells him he must lead the fight against the Cabal. And Jacob asks why he can't use his powers, and Void says she doesn't know, but the dream is becoming more real, that some dude attacks her with an orb and kills her. Basically, she elaborates on the dream, and here we see some shots of the dream. I can't remember that guy's name who was in, but I know he's like a regular Wildcats villain. And I don't know, what do you... Like, so we're going to go a few pages. Yeah, I'll just wait till we get to her. So she says that she's, like, shot by the bad guy, and she, like, shatters into a million pieces. Like, a lot of the, like, the dialogue in this is, like, very sort of, almost sort of Shakespearean and, like, written to where it's supposed to, like, sound, like, smart and, like, mystic or whatever, but it really isn't.
Yeah.
But whatever, it's the art is amazing, so you go with it. And so we move on to the next page, and there is it's pretty much a 2-page spread. Marlowe says at least they have time to prepare, in case, I guess, Void's premonition dreams become true. And he looks down at Spartan, and he's like, "Spartan, how's training the new recruits going?" And Spartan's just like, "Everything's great, Jacob." And then at that moment, Maul and Warblade crash through the wall, and Marlowe is disappointed. And he's like, "Yeah, maybe I can afford a young blood or two." So I really appreciate that they're trying to, like, build a world amongst all the Image titles at this point, which...
Yeah.
I was really...
And earlier, there's like a reference to something from Cyberforce.
Yes.
As well.
I forgot to point that out. Yeah. All it is like it's like Velocity from Cyberforce runs by him as she's being chased by some dudes or something. Yeah. So yeah, that stuff was cool back then. It's a shame when they kind of stopped doing that. So let's see. Now here we are with the bad dudes. There's like an airship called the Behemoth that glides over the Chesapeake Bay, and inside is the Cabal, which is like Hellspawn and Pike and a Coda woman. I can't remember her name, but they were in there talking to like some Damonite sympathizers, trying to get like information, or one of them sold them out or something. And Pike basically kills a man by shoving his face into spaghetti. Because he, what is it that he does? He's gives information, or something like that.
Yeah. By the way, did you catch that the implication here is that what's his character's name? This bad guy Hellspawn.
Yeah.
That he paid Judas to betray Jesus.
Oh, right. Yeah, I read about that. Yeah.
But he says like, once upon a time, I paid a man 30 pieces of silver to betray his own mentor.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Good catch. Man, you are just on fire with all the biblical references today. You're such a good
wow,
Christian.
I just love Jesus.
You and Todd
But yeah,
McFarlane.
I was like, and I didn't catch that as a kid, or if I did, I certainly don't
Right, me
remember.
either.
But it's interesting because like that gives you immediately. It's a good way to give like a lot of like background to this character, right?
But then
If you
again,
catch the reference.
yeah, for sure. But all right, so here we have like a better picture of Hellspawn, and it's just like I don't know if I read enough Wildcats to find out exactly what he is. If he's just like living energy, because like, all right, let's pretend that I'm someone listening to this podcast and I don't know what Hellspawn looks like. How would you describe him?
I mean, yeah, he's just like he's kind of Skeletor-esque in that he's got like a buff body, but then his head is like kind of floating
Yeah, it's like
in like this void of energy.
right. Yeah, well said. Yeah. I mean, he definitely looks cool. Like whatever I can't like I said, I don't know if they ever explained it or not. So Hellspawn basically says, "Oh, Pike, since you killed the guy with the spaghetti, now we're not going to be able to find the chosen one." Or what? How do they refer to Voodoo? They refer to her as the. I have it written down here somewhere, but the one who can see, something like that. So then Hellspawn refers to his living computer, basically his void. This girl computer named Providence, and she's like, he's like, "Where do we begin?" And then we get some more Shakespeare talk, and she's like, "The one you seek is near, in a place filled with pain and lustful desires. But beware, Hellspawn, she has the sight. If she is turned by the cherubim, then reunification itself is imperiled, and time grows short. We must find her." And if you want to know what a cherubim is, it's like, I guess the whole backstory to Wildcats, which isn't really explained in the first issue, is that basically these like ancient aliens, not from the TV show, but they came down to Earth and started crossbreeding and creating half-breeds with humans. Some of them have powers and some of them don't, so they could fight the Daemonites who infested their world of cherubim. So it's a little bit of Thundercats mixed with almost a little bit of Rom Space Knight. That's a deep cut.
Yeah, that's a very deep cut. Yeah, and Hellspawn is like one of the aliens. He's
Daemonite.
a Daemonite, and it's like a race of aliens that serve the cherubim or something like that. But yeah, anyway, sorry. Continue. So like, it's weird to me that they also imply that he paid Judas to betray Jesus, because I don't know, it's just weird.
Right. Well, I think a lot of this is, hey, look at all the cool characters I drew. You have to come up with a story around them. Oh, and by the way, this guy paid off Judas. Work it in, Brandon Choi. I don't care how you do it, but if you don't do it, I'm gonna bust your ass back down to Archie Comics. But a question I wanted to ask you is, and I don't know why this sort of literary device I don't really enjoy in storytelling, but like, so basically Void and this Providence person are like, seers, or they're kind of like the witches from Macbeth, where they're like casting all these like prophecies and stuff like that. Do you like that in this?
No.
Oh, me either. I
hate that trope.
hate it. Yeah.
I think it's lazy. Anytime there's like an oracle type character like that, like I think it's lame. It's overused. It's never interesting.
It's almost as bad as a multiverse, but yeah. Good. I'm glad we're on the same page with that.
Another trope I'm not a big fan of, by the way, is strip clubs in media. Like it's just like, like where they find like the troubled stripper or whatever. Like that's an overused like trope too.
Or I mean, even before that, it's like, oh, the cops are just there because they're hanging out after work, and it's just an excuse to have nudity in a movie. Basically.
Right.
But yeah, we're about to get to said strip club, and here it is. But before the strip club, basically, Jacob Marlowe has to go and talk to some weird mechanical guy who they never say who he is, and he says he needs a favor, I guess, once again to find Voodoo, because she's the one with the ability to see the Damonites as they are, and also basically exorcise them, I guess, to show them to the normies in the world or whatever. And so yeah, Jacob goes and asks for a favor from this weird guy, and that's that. There's only like 4 or 5 panels of that, and then thank God we're finally with Grifter. Like I think the reason why Grifter is so important is because he's like the regular dude that we can all relate to. And the best part is that you can see his thoughts. So it's all, or read his thoughts in the caption boxes. And it's all very sort of detective-y, kind of noirish. And
right.
It helps the story so much. They should have told the whole story through Grifter's POV.
Yeah, he's got like a lot of personality.
Yes, absolutely.
And doesn't he like end up getting? I mean, I know, like, I guess Wildstorm itself, which is the studio, Jim Lee's like image studio. I guess they all got like absorbed into DC, but doesn't Grifter become kind of like prominent in the DC universe?
Well, they tried. I mean, they brought him in when they were doing the New 52. They basically brought him in. He was the one fighting the Damonites in the DCU comics continuity. They sort of did away, at least at that point, with the WildC.A.T.s. I think a few characters showed up here and there. And like the first, 8 to like 12 issues is okay. And then our good friend Rob Liefeld took over. And yeah, he didn't draw it, but he was like in charge of like plotting it and editing it. And it got they gave him powers, telepathic powers, and it was awful. It was, and then that was basically the end of Grifter's solo series. I hear he shows up every now and then, like in alternate, again, in multiverse stories and stuff like that. But other than that, he's not used too much from what I understand.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so Grifter enters the strip club. He says he hasn't been to like this area since the Cold War, which is cool because, I don't know, it gives Grifter kind of like this Highlander vibe to where he's obviously been alive for quite a while. And he goes in and he like talks to the bartender. He's like, "Hey, Wild Bill, you still own this dump?" And he's like, "Cole," that's Grifter's real name, Cole Cash, in case you didn't know. It's like the one and only. He's like, "Good Lord, man, you still look like a punk kid." And he's like, "Clean living, bud." It's like, "In your business, don't kid a kidder." And then he's like, "So tell me, why is this place so hot these days?" And he's like, "Over there on stage." And then there's this massive picture of Voodoo popping out on stage. And I don't know, I don't really get the sense that she's dancing, but yeah, she's definitely is. And he says in his caption box, is Grifter, that he's so entranced with her dancing that he doesn't see the Coda woman from the Cabal show up with her 2 Damonite goons. So they go to make their move on Voodoo, and like one of them tries to like grab at her, and Voodoo can see that it's a Damonite. So, and then one of the other Damonite guys just shoots a guy in the face just because he can, I suppose. And then he grabs Voodoo off the stage. The Coda woman just kills a woman or a dude for again just because she can. Then finally, Grifter jumps into action, and it's funny.
What a hero!
Yeah, exactly. just like Spawn. But it's funny. There's a random woman who's like, "Hey, you're Shaft, aren't you? Do something." And again, that's a reference to Youngblood, as hopefully you'll see from our previous Youngblood review. And so basically a big firefight breaks out. For the Damonite guys shift into like robot suits for some reason.
Flash suits. Sir.
Right. Flash suits. I just wanted to use the normie terminology, for everyone. And, we got a cool shootout here. Grifter shoots them in the head, but they're still okay, I guess because of the suits. And then we cut back to the rest of the Wildcat team who see on the news already, they're reporting the shootout at the strip club. Wow. The news in the Wildstorm universe is just amazing.
They are on it.
Lightning fast. Yeah, not like today. And I guess basically Marlo was like, "Ooh, I don't know if the team is ready to like put into action yet." And it sort of ends with he's like, "I'm supposed to be the leader. I'm thinking here." And so we jump back to the strip club. Grifter starts fighting the Coda lady. She stabs him in the head, even though it's not exactly like on panel. But he like drops his gun, indicating that he may be dead. And it's like, oh no, is Grifter dead? Nope, he ends up shooting her right in the stomach. So it's okay. Grifter was okay. I was really scared there for a minute.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, no, she doesn't actually stab him though. She's about to stab him.
But like, why does he drop his gun then?
He doesn't drop his gun. He's like,
oh,
that gun's
it comes
coming
out of the sleeve. I see. Wow, all these years, all these years, I thought he like got stabbed in the head, and then and then I was reading it, I was like, boy, they didn't put any blood there or anything. Oh,
no. It's like he gets kicked, and then he's like falling back, but he's got like that hidden gun. Right.
I got you now. So yeah, he blows her away with his Derringer from up the sleeve. And so basically he goes all Kyle Reese on Voodoo and is like, but they mess up the line a little bit on purpose, I guess. They go, "If you want to live, follow me and do exactly what I tell you." And she's like, "What are you? What's this all about?" And then so he basically explains all the exposition to her as they are trying to flee from the dudes in the flash suits. But basically, Coda Lady and the flash suit guys regroup, and they're like closing in on Grifter, and then we turn and Voodoo, and we turn the page. Oh, the other Wildcats finally show up. And I love how why does Marlo even have to be there? He's like riding on the back of Maul. It's hilarious looking.
Yeah.
And so we jump down, and there's a pretty funny line. There's definitely some cheesy dialogue in here. Warblade is like, "The Amazon babe is all mine," referring to the bad Coda woman. And Grifter's like, "Watch it, Ponytail. The woman dies hard." And then Warblade goes, "The name's Warblade, and it's easy if you cut to the heart of the matter." And he's cutting her as he says it. Whoa! Brilliant pun!
So, Steve, Warblade, remind me, can Warblade make either of his hands turn into, like, claws?
As far as I know, yes.
Oh, okay. Because I noticed that, like, he's like, his left hand is clawed when he's first appearing, and then in the next panel it's his right hand that's clawed.
Yeah,
so
they were I remember when I first read this, I started asking myself those questions too, because like his like finger count would also change. It's like here you see 3 fingers or 3 claws, and then I remember on the cover of like Wildcats 5 there's 5 claws. And another thing is what's the deal with like Warblade's suit? Like, why does he need all those, like, weird silver pipes, like, running to his claws? It's like, it's his natural ability to have those claws, right?
I don't get it. Maybe, I mean, I guess we should have done some research into his powers. Maybe, like, it helps him with something else, stamina. Maybe
it's because
maybe he just really likes tubes.
So are you saying Jim Lee is to tubes as Rob Liefeld is to pouches?
Yeah. Actually, what's his face? Oh my God, the leader, the android guy. What's his name? Spartan. Mm-hmm. He's got a bunch of pouches on his belt.
Oh yeah, he does. I always liked Spartan's uniform, but he's a robot, so who cares? And then basically everyone here gets to show their power more or less. Spartan does his bioblast thing and sort of fries one of the flash suit guys. And Marlo is just standing there, and no one's paying any attention as the other flash suit guy approaches him and takes him hostage. And so now we've got, like, this is all nothing but action movie cliches since we got into the strip club. And of course, when I was, reading this at the age of like 12 or 13, I thought it was hot shit. And so Void is like, no, talking to Grifter, no, it's too dangerous. And Grifter is all, lady, I can make the shot. And Flash Suit Guy is like, just like you did in the club? Don't flatter yourself, Grifter. And then out of nowhere, this like boomerang thing comes and it clocks him right in the head. And Marlo was all, what? And then who is it? We get a double page spread of Zealot, who, I don't know, you can compare her to Wonder Woman if you don't know who Zealot is, but like she doesn't fly. She's more like a ninja. I would say she's a mix of like a Psylocke and like a Wonder Woman, but she doesn't have like the telepathic powers.
Right. To me, she's more like Xena, the warrior princess.
Yeah, that's good too. Which I wonder which came first. We'll have to cross-reference that. But yeah, her and Grifter basically have like a big pass together. She's from this like ancient sorority of like women like ninjas basically, and she I don't know, broke the code of the coda by teaching a man, Grifter, like the ways like how to fight like a coda or whatever, in case you're going to continue reading after issue 1. And I like Grifter's captions here describing Zealot, and he's like, sex and violence all rolled together with a bad attitude. That's 90s too, Yahel.
Yeah.
Someone once wrote that about Sonic the Hedgehog, I bet. All right, so moving on. Like basically, Marlo sort of sexually harasses Zealot. Not really. She's just like she.
Well, he is a billionaire, CEO.
Right,
so,
and
that's what they do.
If you don't know who he is, he's a little person. So actually nowadays, I guess he would be played by Peter Dinklage, since he's the go-to guy. Even though Warwick Davis is like making his way back with the Willow show. But anyway, Zealot is like, it is fortunate we meet again, Lord Imp. Your timely intervention saved the girl and Brother Grifter. And he's all like, I'm sure I could think of a way for you to repay me. But after your little trick, I'd say we're even. And so, basically Marlo was like, hey, good job, everybody. Let's go back to the Halo building and party. And then before he can even get that out, the Coda woman, who's still alive, again, another action movie cliche. We get a click of a detonator, and then Void says, no, not when we're so close. And then kaboom, a giant explosion. And then you see Hellspawn talking to Dan Quayle about some deal that they made about something. And then that is the end of the first issue of WildC.A.T.s. And anything else to add about that first issue, Yahel?
Yeah, actually, I don't think we really touched on WildC.A.T.s or definitely not the X-Men, but they kind of are, because there's a room that they refer to that they're training in called the CTR.
Right.
What was it, like the critical something training room? I can't remember. But anyway, it's basically the danger room. Yeah. So it's definitely the danger room. We also see that they have like their own like plane thing, just like the Blackbird. Yeah, the Merv is like definitely the Blackbird. I with Spartan, something about him reminds me of Cyclops.
Oh, for sure.
Something about like his
I get
look.
that same vibe.
Yeah. So there's that. You've got Warblade, which is kind of Wolverine-esque, with his claws and stuff. So yeah, I definitely feel like this is Jim Lee kind of doing his own version of X-Men. Some stuff just seems straight up lifted from X-Men, but by the same token, he created a lot of this stuff too.
Sure, I mean, Grifter is very Gambit-esque. I mean, that's why I like both of those characters so much. And I mean, Voodoo.
Down even to what he's wearing, like his trench coat and stuff.
And Voodoo is a hot Jubilee. I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like the also the premise of WildC.A.T.s, since they're aliens crossbred with humans, basically, anyone could just manifest any power they wanted to have, kind of like with mutants, Like, they're like, yeah, we need a guy who can shoot cucumbers out of his nose, and bam, oh, look at this guy. He was hiding out in the vegetables at the local Ralph's grocery store.
But yeah, outside of that, I mean, that was the only other thing I kind of wanted to touch on. But
were there any other anatomy?
Yeah, I think otherwise you covered
any other anatomy issues we need to touch on?
Oh, I mean, yeah, definitely. When Zealot first shows up, like, again, like, who can stand in like the way she's standing, like, Steve? Just how would that even like happen? Like, just imagine putting your legs like in that like position, and then your back is like also like super back but forward as well.
Am I doing it?
It's the hips, legs, and
Am
spine.
I doing it?
I mean, the arm is fine, Steve. It's the
well. See,
the
you
back.
Can't see
it's from the neck down.
The rest of my body. I'm doing it. I just want you to know.
Oh, okay, good job. Well, maybe you should join the fight against the Cabal, I guess.
Maybe. Oh, do you think Jim Lee will allow it? I can only hope.
But yeah, I mean, but again, like, that's the kind of like awkward poses that like women were being drawn in. But those were the only two anatomy issues, and I think it's just more style at the time than anything.
For sure.
Jim Lee's obviously a great artist.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he was definitely, as a kid, my favorite
Did
artist.
you ever check out any of his DC stuff, like when he sold out to DC?
I like how you're saying sold out. I read a little bit of his Batman run.
Hush, yeah.
But
well, what do you?
But that was pretty much
What do you think about his like Batman and his Superman? And wait, tell me you read. Did you read like Batman and Robin All Stars?
No. I just read like a few issues of the Batman thing he did, and it was fine. I mean, it was, the art was gorgeous.
Right.
You know, it was cool to see Jim Lee doing Batman.
Yes, it was. That was the only time, like, aside from like Nightfall, when I actually bought Batman, was when Jim Lee was doing it.
Yeah.
Same with Superman too. But yeah, the story is. I mean, Hush was okay, but that Superman one was well, whatever. But okay, shall we render a verdict for Wildcats?
Let's do it.
Wildcats.
Remembered or overrated? That is the question.
All right, Yahel Velazquez. Does Wildcats deserve to be remembered for all of comics history, or does it deserve to be tossed into the 50-cent bin, never to be heard from again?
I'm gonna say remember it. I mean, we remembered Youngblood.
Oh yeah,
and this is significantly better. So
that was.
I think by default this has to be remembered.
You know, I've been thinking a lot about approving Youngblood, and I was like, you know, maybe we should have stalemated it because it set the bar so low. And I mean, even Rob Liefeld admits that he kind of botched like the first 4 issues of Youngblood, because I would say his best work is actually like X-Force. But whatever, we can't go back in time. So yeah, Wildcats, 100%. I'd say I remember it. I mean, anything that Jim Lee draws. I mean, I've never heard of anything that anyone picked up of his and was like, this is trash. Like, you know, rip it up and throw it away. I mean, even if, who's like a terrible writer? I mean, aside from Brandon Choi. I'm just kidding, Mr. Choi. I'm sure you have a lot of money from all your co-creations. All right. Anyway, yeah. So, what's up?
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Oh shoot! Now I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah. So never mind. Oh. How awkward though is it on this cover that Warblade is just like has one giant blade finger?
Oh yeah, it's the #1 issue, baby.
Like, is that what it's? You think that's why they did it?
Why else?
All right, I guess that makes.
I mean, it's still ridiculous, but
it's very.
Bring
ridiculous.
it up real quick. Let's see if I got yeah, it is. It really,
right?
It's like and I love how Maul's face is right there in the eye, like it used to be in Marvel Comics. You know, when they used to do the faces there. That's fun stuff, Mr. Lee. We see you. We see you.
Oh, I remember now what I was going to say is in the documentary Image Revolution, which, again, I highly recommend it. It's about the founding of Image Comics. They interview Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, all the founding members. But they all kind of talk about how Jim Lee is like the best artist out of all of them.
I remember
they
that.
all kind of agree and talk about that.
I remember that.
So, yeah, it's not just us fanboys that think his art is superb. I mean, if Todd McFarlane is saying someone's a better artist than him, and I'm sure it's not easy for him to say that.
I can just picture him. I would love to hear him do like a monologue about that. It's like, you might think that Todd McFarlane is the best artist in the whole world, but you'd be wrong. It's actually Jim Lee. And then he starts turning into Spawn. His like chains go everywhere. He like rips up his like castle dungeon set. And yeah, anyway, here's the remembered bumper. In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show. 2 remembereds in a row. Well, I think we can...
Actually, 3, right? Because... Spawn,
Spawn,
Youngblood.
Man, we're such Image fanboys, but that's okay. It was our youth. One of these days, we'll...
Well, you know what's funny is Youngblood was remembered almost for how bad it was.
It's true. And we had such a great time talking about. I mean, I'd say if anything, it was just remembered because Rob Liefeld was such a prominent force in the 90s. He was the 90s,
yeah.
But
and that book is like peak 90s.
100%. Well, I believe that is our show for the day. Don't forget to look us up on TikTok at Reptilian Media, done by Stephen Finite. You did it better last time.
On TikTok, we're at Reptilian Media. The name on the account that will say Stephen Finite, but you'll see the Reptilian Media logo from our YouTube channel is the same picture used for that profile on TikTok.
I imagine we'll probably have a few more Image episodes, but I guess we'll just have to talk about that off camera. But anyway, do you agree? I always forget to ask this question. Like, do you agree with us? Should Wildcats be remembered? Let us know in the comments in our YouTube or on Twitter. Otherwise,
look at this call to action. Wow. That's what they call it in the biz.
That's right.
In the YouTube biz, a call to action.
Otherwise, we will see you next time as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next time.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.